Hey everyone, Mill Guy Brad here. You might have seen me on such shows as, just kidding. We got into some cedar logs. We bought some cedar logs for a good farmer down the road. We cut a bunch of 6x6x8 and 6x6x10. Gonna be turned into fence row to keep, I'm assuming, cattle in or something out. One thing we're gonna get more into as we go this year is more cedar, hemlock, and white pine rough cuts on boards to appease more of our agricultural market for farming. What else is involved, Brian? Farming, paddocks, pens, fencing, dunnage, and in that we'll have hardwood dunnage always coming through as well for concrete companies, steel companies. So have a peek, have a boo, watch Brian do his thing on the mill, and we'd love to hear from you guys if you have any rough cut needs. Yeah, thanks for watching and supporting.
So, MillGuyBry here. I was struggling a little bit with my intro today, so Brad was here. He's like, I'm going to jump right in and look after it for you. We're going to go over a few things just regarding cedar. It's one of my favorite in the mill, if not the favorite, especially with the softwood. Smells great. It's bug resistant, rot resistant, looks great. It's just all around great. The only disadvantage of it is usually the size of the logs. These are all 6x6. There's 45 of them here. I got to mill 5 more, and it's been a great job so far. They're going to be fence posts, so he doesn't care about a little bit of Little Wayne, you know, Little Wayne. And yeah, I'm going to go over also how I choose logs and things to look for when you're milling cedar. So first thing to look for when you're picking a cedar log, I've just been throwing all the small ones to the side, is always check your butt. Sometimes cedar is known to hollow out a bit. Doesn't mean this log's not salvageable. Actually, this one, just by looking, there's a hole halfway up, but sometimes it may only be like a foot or two in. So if it's a 10-foot log, you still might get an 8-foot log or a 6-foot log out of it. So that's the first thing I usually check for. I'll show a couple more, that's just the smaller ones that are just starting. So you can see those ones are just starting, they're smaller. They're just starting to rot. Probably still get good 8-footers or 6, well, this one would be 6-footer, and this one will probably get an 8-footer out of yet. Another thing about milling cedar is, and those of you who mill, is they generally, unless you get into old growth, kind of oversized stuff, it usually has quite a taper on it. So you always look at your narrow end, because yeah, if you start looking at the butt end, you'll throw it up there and think you get a 6x6 out of it, and you won't. Another thing to keep in mind, since it does have such a taper on it, for example, this log here, this whole order only needs to be 8-footers. That is a 10-foot log. And just looking at the butt, I don't know, it's kind of hard to tell on camera. There's no way I would get a good clean 6x6 out of that at 10 feet. But I bet you if I cut back 2 feet to around 8'4", I bet you I can still get a 6x6 out of that. That's another thing, when you buy from a logger, I don't know if any of you sawmill, you'll notice this, or if you're ever cutting logs, is you always cut them 4 to 6 inches longer than the foot mark. That way, if there's any checking or the chainsaw didn't cut perfectly straight, you still have room to square them after it's been cut in a rough cut lumber. And then even when if I'm doing logging myself, honestly, if I'm doing like 16-foot logs, I'll even cut them at about 16.8, and that way you can comfortably split them into 8'4" if somebody decides they don't want to cut 16-footers later. That's just something I do. I'm sure somebody will disagree with me on it, but yeah, this is just, I've been throwing the small ones over here. There is a couple in here I think I might pull out and cut a couple feet off of, like that top one there. I think I still get a 6x6 out of that one if I just cut it down to an 8-footer. So it is raining, but we're gonna continue on. I want to show you guys one of my favorite things I have. This is my log tape. It is obviously a steel log tape. don't know if you notice at Westwood, everything's usually still, but there is different brands. This is the hook, and see right there, and it's kind of on a, I'll show you. It kind of trips. Look at it over here. See there how it's designed? And it can go like this or like that. So the reason is for that is you hook it on the end of the log. Usually have this clipped to myself. You hook it on the end of your log like so. Then you just wander on down the log. If you're logging, any loggers watching this, you know exactly where I'm going with this. Come to the end, 10'4", 10'6", cut it off. I want to cut this one at 8. So you come down to 8'4". So you kind of mark. So like for example, I know right there, kind of hard to see, I keep moving the camera around. I know that, woo, that little mark's 8'3", so I'll just bring it over an inch or so. But as soon as you get to 8'4", you just, it's kind of hard to video this. You just give it a yank and that hook goes straight and just comes flying right back in. So when you're doing it smooth, you just walk out with it, mark your spot, give it a yank and cut. So I'll try to get that on video. You know, that's kind of pretty painful to watch, but trying to record with one hand and use tape with the others. Harder than I thought. Another thing you can do with cedar, if you get cedar that's close to the, you gotta be pretty darn close to the same size, you can mill 2 at the same time, especially when you're doing timbers. You're only doing maybe 4 or 5 cuts. There is some things you gotta watch for when you're milling 2 at a time. If you're using a hydraulic mill, you can kind of put too much pinching pressure and it can actually, you'll see. I'll walk you through it. So we're just gonna do the first cut on this, and then we'll flip them 180, and then yeah. Oh, quickly, one other thing too is I know some people watching this, some mills do have lasers on them, green lasers for milling in the daylight. I personally do not. And it doesn't even matter. I prefer to always put the narrow end towards the saw head, because when you're milling stuff like cedar or even some pine that has a lot of taper to it, sometimes you might only be an inch down on here, but you might be way thicker at the other end, where if you try to eye it up from the other end, your band might pop out right here if you don't line it up perfect, especially if you don't have a laser. So doesn't matter with me whether it's pine, cedar, hardwood. I always put the narrow end towards the mill. It's just my preference. Some guys like to do it the other way around. It's yeah, each their own. So when you're milling logs side by side like that, 2 at a time, one thing you really got to be careful with is, especially when you're using hydraulics, if you're using a smaller mill, homeowner mill, and you're hand tightening that, you'd get a feel for it. But your pincher, you do not want to over pinch. What happens when you over pinch is it's round and around like that. It's not square on square right there. And what happens is it'll actually kind of buckle and it won't be laying flat, which means then you're out of square. And on small logs like this, every cut matters. Bigger log, worst case Ontario, you can kind of maybe shave a 1/2 inch off the sides and you square it back up. But when you're dealing with like an 8 or 9 inch top, trying to cut a 6x6 out of it, you may not get another chance. You most likely won't. So what I usually do is, these are small enough, I just hand roll them over, put my backers down so I know I'm not gonna hit them on my next cut. I just shove them in my hand, kind of tight and hard. And then, as you can see, still a little bit of a gap. I just bring my pincher up and just touch it. You don't need to have it pinched in there like the all almighty super hard. You're just holding it. And with the sawmill band rotating this way, as long as it's against these backers, you'll be okay. Like, that's the thing, you don't need to pinch these all god hell pressure. Like, it just needs to hold it, And yeah, so snug that up a bit, and next cut. So another thing too, when you're doing double like this is where you, unlike the last video, you do need to make sure you got a little bit of pressure on your pincher to make sure that there is. Oh, another thing you gotta make sure is no bark falls between, or any debris falls between the logs. And then you make sure it's nice and square on your backers. And make sure your backers are low and that they're kind of half matching. This one's got some sweep in it and the other one doesn't, so I had to use the one roller and level it up there a little bit. So it is now pouring rain. I don't know if you can hear me, but that order is done. I don't know how much footage we're gonna get. It's starting to rain pretty good, so I might actually move some truck and trailers around and think about calling it a day about half hour early. Hey everybody, so it's Friday morning. This device died on me yesterday. This YouTube video, as you see, is gonna be a little bit different. Not so much of the music or milling, just try to be a little more educational. So reach out to us, let us know what you want to know about. I'll give you a quick little look around the warehouse. No time to go over everything, but see, we got some nice walnut slabs here right now, like really nice. So if you need got any walnut projects, give us a call. Screw to restock. We got some cleaning up to do in here, and dimensional, and our RF kiln, which we're going to be loading that today, maybe even get it done today. Hopefully get it done today. So that is going to be a wrap on this YouTube video. I'm going to go ahead and edit it right now. It'll be up within the hour. It's around 10 on Friday. Yeah, quarter after 10 Friday morning. So by noon, this video will be up. Click, like, subscribe, follow us. Reach out to us. Let us know what you want to watch, what you want to see, what you want to know about. Until next time, I'll mail you later.